So part 2 of my experience at UEA. As I was saying, they canceled the things that I found the most value in the program in because of COVID, but they canceled them before they knew for sure that they wouldn't have been able to hold them. That was really frustrating. It felt like the people organizing the course just didn't care. They were just like, you know what, it's going to be so much easier for us if we can all stay home and be little gray boxes on Zoom, so that's what we're going to do. And so we didn't get that benefit. That was a big thing. But of course, that happened near the end of the program. And at that point, myself, along with just about everybody else on my program, was extremely unhappy with the entire thing. It was everything from like the first day when we walked in and one of our classrooms was essentially a janitor's closet that had been converted, and there was no space. Our desks, you couldn't even put a notebook on. There was no space from one desk to another, and it was hot and it was awful. And then when we asked to change, we then had to go every week to a different room. Okay, I mean, sure, this is a privileged thing to be complaining about, but we were all paying good money for this, and that's what we were getting. But if the teaching and program had been great, that would have been a non-issue. But the fact is that you'd get papers back from your professors and they would have notes on them, like feedback, that would just clearly not be about your paper. It was as if they hadn't read it, or they had mixed you up with somebody else, or they had read parts of it but hadn't finished because their advice was like, why don't you add this? And it's like, well, that's there. Did you read it? So that's what you're paying the money for, right? And it was bad. But the real kicker, prior to all the events being canceled at the end of the year due to COVID, was the strikes. And now the thing about the strikes at the universities in the UK is that they make no sense to me. I'm all for unions, I'm all for workers' rights, but to have a union that only encompasses some of the teachers, and to have a start and an end date to your strike, and to have the company that you're trying to have give you more money profit from that strike, none of those things make sense to me. But fine, let's put that aside because we're not talking about unions and strikes here. We're talking about UEA. And what happened is that it's a very long story, but essentially one of our professors said that she would hold off-campus classes, but she was aware of one of the students who was not in my course, she was a part-timer, was going to be upset about it because of her job. And so essentially she sent all of us to a room where I got cut off there. So we all went to this room where the professor was not there, and she essentially pitted us against each other. And the part-timers, who were not in the same classes as the full-timers and had very little relationship with each other, were just sent to argue about this. And it was so uncomfortable, and the professor could not have cared less the toxic environment she created. And then we had to spend the rest of the year together. And so nothing positive to say.